Hello, fellow CEO. Welcome back to the Streamline CEO podcast. Today, I'm going to be sharing my personal strategies for organizing my week and then, of course, down to the day. And I'm also going to be providing actionable steps that you can use to implement these techniques in your own life and business as well. And so my go-to tool for managing my business is ClickUp. It is my central business hub. All right. ClickUp is a powerful project management tool that I use for everything from tracking deadlines to delegating tasks to my team. And I consider it my quote unquote second brain, and it's my central hub for business. So it's keeping me organized and on top of everything. Okay. If you want to learn more about ClickUp and how to master task management, head on over to the Productivity Impacts YouTube channel for getting started. It's a great resource for anyone looking to streamline their workflow. I go into actually how to do things, and you can see the screen. Okay, so now before you're like, I don't want digital, that's absolutely okay. But I want to highlight why having a digital space to organize and keep track of deadlines becomes super, super helpful is when you bring on a team. So whether you have a team or not right now, when you bring on a team, it's going to be super helpful to have this digital space that you're already used to using or can implement soon. Because then you have this oversight on what is going on without this micromanagement piece. You can easily delegate tasks to your team, and it's simple to break down projects across a longer span of time. And so those are some of the amazing reasons that I love ClickUp or another project management tool. It doesn't have to be ClickUp. I just personally love ClickUp myself, okay? But for those that are like, I don't really want digital, or I'm okay with digital being the end result, but I really need to work it out on paper, I am totally in your corner. I get it. And so I also use my paper planner and a notebook at times. I have my focus planner, which allows me to plan out the month with high-level goals and break them down. And I do this the last week of the month before, okay? So I then put everything needed into ClickUp. And I also want to point out the Focus Planner is actually a planner I created. It's about 2 years old now. There's a yearly and a monthly printout with a quarterly planning component coming in the next year. So you can head to the show notes to grab yours. If you grab yours now, you'll also receive the quarterly planning components when they are available. All right, so I also use what you would consider more of like a standard paper planner, okay? So I love planners. I actually love the ones that are like notebook size. So I can see like, the 8.5 by 11 regular size notebook. So I can see like the full week at a time. So every week I plan out the next week. I do this on Fridays at the end of the day or sometimes before Monday morning. This allows me to send my clients their weekly reviews, but also to look at the next week and let them know what's on the to-do list. So I'm informing my clients what's going on as well as planning out my following week, which is super efficient. And I love the process. And so I'm going to jump into here. So I've given you all these tools, right? As to what I use, there's also a few more I'm going to introduce. But now I'm going to jump into actually how I actually use these tools to map out my week. So I grab ClickUp, I grab my Google Calendar, and I grab my paper calendar. And I start by putting all of the meetings or events from my Google Calendar into my planner. And this allows me to see what days are heavier for meetings or outings. I include business and personal when I do this, okay? So each client, including myself, gets their own highlighter color to be used as a key. Yes, I'm going to need more highlighter colors here really soon. And I add tasks from ClickUp and Slack next, assigning them by priority to a day and highlighting it by client. It allows it to not feel like it's just a bunch of words on a page, and the highlighters kind of it's like a color coordinating type of technique. All right, it helps so much. And then between my calendar notifications, my high priority reminders that I have on my phone and in ClickUp, all the things, and I also use alarms. That's how I guide myself through the day. I am someone that would literally lose myself in a project or miss this meeting or do whatever. So I need to have different things in place that reminds me to keep moving through the day. And that's super, super helpful. And so I try to keep my to-do list as light as possible. Okay? Because things like to creep in. You can probably relate to this. You're like, oh, yay, this week is going to be great. And then suddenly it is doubled its tasks and all of these things. And I have to reprioritize and all this stuff. So I keep my week really light to begin with. And so high priority tasks are always usually marked. And then they're usually added to earlier in the week, unless it's a meeting or something, of course. But that way, client requests or urgent matters don't tend to completely ruin the week. All right. It's very rare that every single client or however you work with, right, has an emergency in the exact same week or has a lot of tasks that are added at a last minute, okay? It's very rare. Totally possible, but rare. All right, so if you want to know more about how I do any of these processes, you can absolutely reach out to me on Instagram in the DMs, and I'd be happy to, kind of like have a conversation with you. I'd love to know how you do things and what you thought of this episode as well. But moving on here to one of the most important things. And so I've shared how I've mapped out my week, but like, when am I going to actually accomplish it? Like, when are we actually going to do these things? Obviously, you've put it on the days, but also thinking about without stepping all over your own boundaries, right? Well, for one, setting boundaries, and I'm talking about, in this case, the boundary of working hours. And I'll be the first one to admit I'm absolutely not fantastic at this, but setting them has been super helpful for responding to clients or setting meetings, etc. Those things, those are golden. Not necessarily me working on the actual task, given the type of business I have. That part is still a work in progress. That's why we're hiring more team members. And so we are working on actually solving this, which is going to be an actual action step that you have later on. But I'm going to give you a fun example of my current crazy work hours, okay? So I am not a morning person. I have never been a morning person. I have struggled greatly to get up before 9 a.m. ever. I will if necessary, and you're very special if I will get out of bed before 9 a.m. for you, okay? If you're listening, some of you know who you are. Anyway, I wake up at 9 a.m. usually. I work from about 10 to 12, so that first hour is, waking up, getting ready, all those things, getting my coffee. And then I work from 10 to 12. 10 to 12 is more of like working through, like checking all the emails for the clients, checking communications, checking ClickUp, things like that. What has come through over the night or since I last looked, right? And so really making note of any of those additional things that need to be taken care of, and then getting to work if there's time left over. Also communicating with the team in there as well. So then, I have my breaks from 12 to 2, all your household stuff, lunch, all that. And then I get back to work from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. So that's 6 hours total, okay, of working hours so far. So I'm available for my clients to have a meeting between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. essentially, okay? So sometimes there will be meetings between 12 and 2, but in general, those are block hours for other things. But sometimes we have to shift our schedule, and I'm totally fine with it. And so sometimes I then also work at this other crazy hour, 10 p.m. to midnight. All right. And my bedtime is 2 a.m. This has been working successfully all of 2024. And so I am just going to keep it as it is until it no longer works anymore. So go ahead and play around with your schedule and your working hours and seeing what works best for you. Okay. Because yes, it's a crazy schedule if you think about it. I'm working from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed, but I work on different types of projects, different types of tasks, different clients' work, things like that. And at different hours of the day, I've realized what are my different strengths. So if I need to deep dive into a really big project and I want absolutely no interruptions, I'm not going to work during my working hours. I'm going to work at 10 p.m. when my brain is on fire and it is good to go, right? I get some of the best, productive hours at that time. It's awesome. So figure out what works best for you, when's your most productive times for doing different things, and look at those distractions, all of that. All right. But like I said, the most important thing is that this works for you. Okay. And that you and your clients know that it's good to go, right? And my clients also know this, that they don't get a call with me before 10 a.m. because I am not useful to them before 10 a.m. And some of them laugh at me a little bit. I'm like, I'm serious. You want to see me before 10 a.m.? Well, no, you don't. but they accommodate that, right? That they know that right from the beginning when they hire me. So they even sometimes get a little Slack message though at midnight when I'm finishing something. Okay, their notifications are muted. I make sure that their notifications are muted because otherwise I gotta schedule it for a weird hour and then they'll be like, there's no way she's up. So I just send it and it's fun. So they know when I start my day and they have it when they start their day. And of course, when they start their day, 90% of the time, I'm still fast asleep. So enough of that crazy schedule thing. I'm sure yours isn't as crazy. And if it is, I totally want to know. Head on over to Instagram and totally send me a DM with your crazy schedule. I totally want to find my people. They have a crazy schedule, or if they don't have a crazy schedule, because most of my clients don't have crazy schedules, but the people I click with as far as outside of working, they have crazy schedules, like talking at midnight. Hi, how are you? People that are on my team work at midnight, just saying. It's kind of ironic. Anyway, so action steps here. I've covered a lot today. And so if you're still hanging on, I absolutely love it. You're my people. And so here are your action steps. You don't have to wait any longer. And if you're a visual person, I also put these in the show notes. That way you can actually like see them written out without too much struggle here. All right. So we have 2 action steps really here, 2 big ones. We broke it down into like some sub bullets to ask yourself some questions, but evaluate your current planning and organizational methods. Okay. That's where we're going right back to the beginning of this. Like, how are you actually keeping things organized? How are you putting them together? Do you have a routine around this? Are you planning out your weeks at all? Like, do you have a planner? Do you use something like ClickUp as a project management tool? Like, what do you do? And then I want you to go, how do you feel about it? How do these planning and organizational methods feel? Do they feel good or do they not, right? What feels good and what doesn't? I want you to take note of it. And then start going from there. What modifications can you make to feel good when you do your next planning session, right? What modifications can you do before you get to your next planning session, right? And so that's really evaluating those current planning and organizational methods, because those are going to help your productivity and allow you to have a more structured work week, but without all of the crazy, right? We're going to definitely conquer the week with this. And so the second thing I want you to also do is create, if you don't have them, or evaluate your working hours or the hours that you're working on your business or your schedule in general. Okay. You can look at your whole schedule in general. I kind of gave you my whole schedule to an extent, but mostly your working hours, making sure that you're communicating with clients and having meetings or communicating with your team, if that makes sense, during your working hours, right? I said sometimes my team members and I are talking at midnight, but that's because we have an open communication loop where we talk at midnight sometimes. And it's normally only when something's due the next day and we ran into a problem, right? The life of the CEO of the company and making sure everything works. So if you're the CEO and you have a big team and maybe like, for example, I'm in charge of communicating with your team. Yes, sometimes there are some later daytime hours where we're trying to figure out fix some problems in the late night. And so, but you don't know about those things, right? You don't know. We fix them behind the scenes. But create or evaluate your working hours. So what time do you want to dedicate to your business? I'm asking this. When are you available for meetings, completing work, and communicating with your team, right? You can have forward-facing business hours with your clients, and then you can have team business hours, and you can have meeting business hours. They can all have their own sort of structure, and they don't have to have, I don't have meetings on Mondays and Fridays. That's just what I want. I communicate with my team at odd hours. They're totally cool with it. And if they're not, we don't communicate to that team member at odd hours. But then they're probably not on my team, honestly. But anyway, I digress. So here's a recap. We've explored effective strategies for organizing your week and then your days, right, as a CEO. And so by understanding the importance of actually planning, leveraging tools like ClickUp, and setting clear boundaries, you can streamline your workflow and actually achieve those goals that you have, hopefully that you've planned out, right? So if you're ready to actually take the action, I want you to start by literally doing those action steps, evaluating your current planning and organizational methods. I want you to define your working hours or reevaluate them. And I want you to implement effective tools. We're talking ClickUp, Google Calendar, a paper planner, like whatever it is. I want you to actually implement effective tools for you. All right. That also means creating effective working hours for you. Right? When are you most productive? All of these things. All right. So if you actually need more support with this, I want you to consider these 3 options. And the first option is actually having a quarterly planning session with me, where you get to work one-on-one with me to create a personalized plan for the entire quarter. That is 3 months, which means you can have 4 quarterly planning sessions in a year and really be able to have it detailed, planned out. So if you're interested in that one, go ahead and head to the show notes and you can fill out the work with me form and we can talk about next steps. The second thing is if you're more of I want to do it myself. I really just need to plan it out, work it out, brainstorm sort of thing. You can grab my focus planner. Remember I said that was the planner that I created to really be able to map out my whole month and then be able to put in ClickUp and all of that to be able to have multiple ways of organizing that works really well for myself as a CEO, but also having a team. And so you can get your hands on my comprehensive planner to streamline your week in the show notes as well. There's a link down there. And the quarterly planner component will be coming out in the new year. And you will also have access to that when it becomes available. You will not be charged an additional fee, which is awesome. So the last thing, which I find to be, all of these are fun actually. So one of the ones that I absolutely love, if you can't tell, I absolutely love ClickUp. So you can grab a ClickUp VIP week where it's just where you get some phenomenal one-on-one time with me, and we get to implement ClickUp together and optimize your workflow to really, really work for you as a CEO. And if you have a team, also being able to optimize that for your team to where you have oversight without micromanagement and all those fun things, right? And so if you're really ready to take back this control and really feel good about your next steps and really feel good about your work week, you can do this by implementing these strategies that we've talked about today and leveraging the power of like these tools like ClickUp, so that way you can streamline your week and become way more efficient and way more effective as a CEO that is absolutely scaling, bringing on new team members, bringing on more clients, and really just wanting that to step into that visionary role and not be bogged down by the day-to-day tasks. So if you are just genuinely curious in how to work with me, you can also fill out the work with me form below and we will absolutely chat. But again, head to Instagram if you want to, kind of create a custom conversation. We can really just chat about conquering your work week and what other strategies might work for you specifically. But again, I just love to connect with people that listen to the podcast. And that is my ultimate goal, is just to be able to have that personalized relationship with you and see how I can support you. All right. Have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll see you next week.